All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to finish up the series of screencasts that we had for the Revolutions essay with this final screencast on the conclusion paragraph. In the conclusion paragraph, we wrap up our essay and show what the significance of the points we made throughout the essay were. In the directions, first we're going to transition from the last body paragraph. Then we're going to summarize in a few sentences the main claims and points we proved in our essay. We're going to draw a conclusion based on the points that we presented, talking about lessons that society can learn from the revolution we studied, conditions that made a revolution necessary overall, consider what makes a revolution successful, as well as what are some of the dangers. We will discuss the pattern that we see happening in the revolution. And for those of you that want to extend this section, you could discuss areas in your writing that are in need of more detailed investigation and ways that the research could take place. So, for example, what do you not know about the effects of the revolution, and where could you go on to do that research? If you do choose to do this section, you don't need to tie it to what is possible as a high school student. Perhaps to really know more, you would need to travel to the country and do additional research on the ground. That's okay to say here. Remember, you're acting as the investigative reporter. Okay, starting off, we're first going to do that sentence to transition from the last body paragraph. Just don't need to be bold. Also going to refresh the page. All right. In conclusion, the French Revolution So as we transition from the last body paragraph, our last body paragraph was talking about the positive and negative changes of the French Revolution, of the positive and negative effects on the people of France. So in conclusion, the French Revolution transformed France at the end of the 18th century. And created or led to the creation of France as it exists today. Democratic, this is going to be cheesy. Democratic, proud, and free, which you can argue based on some of the modern conditions in France. Okay, now we need to summarize in a few sentences the main claims and points. So if you remember, our first claim, thinking about the specific body, our introduction paragraph claim was saying that political, social, and economic causes led to the revolution, and it had both positive and negative effects, but overall it was more positive. In body paragraph 1, we talked all about the different kinds of conditions. So the revolution was caused by political oppression from I'm not even just going to say from the king and queen, I'm going to say from the ancient regime system, which is really talking about the three estate system, including the king and queen, but it's everything that was shown by the simulation we had in class, where the peasants were just working and working and working. The clergy collected taxes, the nobles collected taxes, a lot of things went to the king and queen, but overall the peasants got the short end of the stick. So the revolution was caused by political oppression of the ancient regime system, economic oppression in the form of taxes, and let's say the form of heavy taxes, and archaic labor regulations, which mentions, if you remember from the document where we looked at the factory that was being torn apart because it was making the fabric with cotton or with wool instead of goat hair. That would be the archaic labor regulations, comma, and social oppression that kept the third estate in a state of despair. Okay. It just references what we already proved above. We're not doing anything new here. And then the second part, I'm going to restate or summarize the second body paragraph about the effects of the revolution. So the revolution led to both positive effects, such as a renewed focus on the protection of human rights for all French citizens, and negative effects, such as the massive death toll that took place during the Reign of Terror, but in the end has proven to be more beneficial for France than, that's it, just more beneficial for France. So we're clearly taking a side. All right, now we want to draw a conclusion based on the points that we presented. Based on the research yielded in this essay, comma, society can learn that a revolution is going to disrupt society and cause chaos. But if the revolutionaries have pure motives to protect and serve human rights, the revolution will be positive if it is eventually successful in changing the government or governing structure of a country. Then go into what conditions make a revolution necessary. We've been talking about this since day one. Let's say when a group of people are oppressed, revolution is the only logical response. We should say probably severely oppressed. Severely oppressed and cannot overcome their circumstances. Revolution is the only logical response. So we're not saying if something's slightly unfair, you should rise up against the government, but instead, if someone's severely oppressed and they cannot overcome the circumstances through natural means, revolution is the logical response. Revolution is successful when it leads to a change in the status quo that better protects and serves the majority of a country's population. Let's actually continue this sentence. However, because of the chaos that results from a revolution in the short term, there is a danger of increased oppression and death tolls during a revolution's occurrence. Okay. And finally, what is the pattern that you see happening in this revolution? The pattern shown by the French Revolution is one of rising oppression across economic, social, and political arenas, which eventually comes to a tipping point and leads to armed revolution. The revolution, in turn, leads to short-term negatives, but at its successful conclusion, is able to protect the rights of French citizens more fully than they had ever been protected before. So in that last part, when you're talking about the pattern, you really want to just explain once more, even though it seems like we've done it a couple times, that the pattern of a revolution is that people are oppressed. Eventually, they don't want to take it anymore. They rise up in revolution. In that revolution, there's going to be both positive and negative. Usually, the short term is negative, and it leads to long-term positives if the revolution is successful. If your revolution was not successful, or is still taking place, you might actually not get into that positive section because we just haven't seen it yet. As always, please reach out to your teacher if you need assistance, and good luck writing your conclusion paragraph.